friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's vlog, we will be reading some mostly Kindle Unlimited hockey sports romances. I, like everybody else, have been a little bit obsessed with sports romances recently, so we're going to be checking out some Kindle Unlimited options, and we're also going to be reading Crash Test, which is not on Kindle Unlimited, but as far as I know, the rest of them are. That being said, let's get right into the vlog. We definitely had some mixed experiences with these books, but it was a good time nonetheless. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on anything that I read or what sports romances you have read recently. I would love to talk. But without further ado, let's just get right into the video. 30% of the way through Power Play. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I wouldn't say that it is the best hockey romance, sports romance that I've read, but I am enjoying it quite a bit more than I enjoyed the first one. I read the first one at the, I think, middle of last year. It was not super memorable, but I am enjoying this one a smidge more. So we have the heroine, Piper. She is a media coordinator for the DC Stars, which is a hockey team in DC in the US. She gets a new promotion at the beginning of the novel. It's kind of her dream job. She's very excited about it, but she's also very nervous. She just recently got out of a very not satisfying marriage with kind of a piece of shit ex-husband. Their divorce is still very rocky. He cheated, and just overall their relationship was not very good. And then we also have the hero, Liam, who is the goalie for the DC Stars team. He is a little bit gruff, a little bit broody and grumpy, but he's always had a crush on Piper. In the beginning of the story, he gets a call from his sister that says that she has a wedding coming up and she would like him to bring a +1. He, in an effort to get his family off of his back, tells them that he has a girlfriend, that he will be bringing a +1, and so through a set of circumstances, Piper and Liam enter into like a deal, I guess. Piper wants to get back on the dating field, but she's only had sex with one man and she's only been with one man since, her early 20s. And so Liam is going to train her in the art of sex, and she's going to be his fake date to this wedding. So ostensibly the wedding will be the end date of their sex coaching. I'm definitely liking Liam more than Piper. I'm finding Liam's character to be a little bit more believable. But the problem that I'm having at the moment with both of them is a lot of the author telling us who our characters are rather than showing it to us through their actions. Being told that Piper is this bubbly, fun person, but when I'm actually reading her story and reading her interactions with other people or seeing her through Liam's eyes, she's not really downtrodden. She's very anxious. She doesn't appear to be naturally bubbly. And obviously she's going through a lot. She's dealing with a lot of stress. But in other characters that are characterized as naturally bubbly in like that sunshine grumpy dynamic, the characters are monologuing things that feel like they're meant to be profound. But the romance itself is fun. I don't feel a deep connection between the two, but there are things, especially about Liam, that I really enjoy. I have always enjoyed when heroes are quite obsessive and when they're a little bit self-loathing and just completely enamored with the heroine, which is how Liam is in this. And he's definitely not the typical sports romance hero. He's not a playboy. He avoids the media, he avoids women, he avoids people really at all costs, and seems to really only have a close relationship with his teammates, I suppose. I feel like the characters do have a little bit of depth to them, but maybe not as much as I have come to expect from romances that I really love. I'm again liking it more than I liked the first one. I can imagine this author's writing obviously getting better as they write. It seems like this is not maybe their first series, just based on some backstory of some side characters, but I can possibly see this author's writing just like improving over time and becoming a good author. So this book is not bad by any means, but it's not quite as like swoony as I really want it to be. It's like a step above, like mid utterly forgettable, but below like a really good time, you know? The part that I left off at, they had their first sexual experience together. They haven't had like full sex, but the coaching has begun. I don't know. I didn't really like the coaching scene. Piper has a lot of insecurities and things from her previous marriage, and especially around like her sexuality, her identity, things that she enjoys in the bedroom. She doesn't really know herself all that well. The way that she's like going into this sexual experience, she's almost like too naive, too innocent, in a kind of borderline icky way. She's almost a little bit too like pathetic. We'll see how it improves. Obviously her confidence is going to grow because Liam is dead set on making her see that not everybody is a piece of shit. We'll see how the story progresses. We'll see how her confidence progresses and how her character progresses. I'm going to continue. I'm probably going to come back to you when I'm done with it because I don't have big grand opinions or big grand things to say about it. So, all right, I suppose we should talk about Play Shot. Is that what it's called? Let me get my notes. Power Play. I did not finish Power Play. We got to another sex scene, and I was so off-put by the sex scene that I just, like, could not continue. The heroine, okay, so this is a present-day book, so presumably 2020s is when this was written. It's, like, present day. During this sex scene, the heroine discovered what a clit was, which is just so unlikely to me, given that in the book she says that she reads romance novels. This isn't like a 1800s historical romance where a woman is, that kind of stuff is never taught to a woman. Like, women know their bodies. They might not know how to, like, what they like specifically, but women know their body parts. As far as the non-sex scenes were concerned, the issue that I identified with the, like what I was saying earlier about the monologues being like weird, author uses these long monologues as a way to like progress the story forward and get the character into a different position. Piper is experiencing some really, really bad harassment in the workplace, and she monologues about it, burns her on. And then the same thing with Liam happened. I am probably done with this author. I didn't love the first one in this series, didn't love the second one, so I think I'm just done. But I did end up reading Cleats and Pumps. This is a male-male romance. In the beginning of the ebook, it includes a short story prequel to Cleats and Pumps called Alec and Wonderlust. I think this is part of a anthology collection called like Romance is a Drag or something like that. And it's a collection of stories about romance with drag queens and stuff. So the prequel is about Link and Anton. Link is a country music songwriter, and he's trying to get over a breakup, so he goes to a psychic who says that he should write a musical featuring all drag queens. And so he has this dream, kind of like a fever dream of like an Alice in Wonderland sort of thing. He wakes up and he writes it, and then he ends up getting it bought by Anton as his agent and some like other Broadway people. And then, so he moves to New York, they're working on this musical, and he has a relationship with Anton, and the lead character in his musical is Amos, who is one of the main characters in Cleats and Pumps. I found the original short story, it's only like 60 pages, to be a little bit all over the place, and I found this to be consistent with the author's writing in general. This happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, very fast. Not a lot of time to sit with the characters and like think about how they're feeling or feel it with them or connect to them. So by the end of the short story, I was a little bit, or end of the novella, whatever, I was feeling fine about it. I didn't much care. And I don't feel like it necessarily helped the main story all that much. So I started Cleats and Pumps. It's about Tommy and Amos. They meet in college when they're both trying to pledge the same fraternity. And they end up becoming roommates, they fall in love, that kind of thing. Amos is a football player and he's majoring in drama. And Tommy is like an investigative journalist or something. Amos gets into drag and he gets into a competition and he does well in the competition, and this gets written about by Tommy in the school paper, and it kind of blows up his entire life. And so the story itself is a little over 200 pages, and it's following them trying to make their relationship work, because like they get together pretty early on. Life being gay and being in a relationship, wanting to do drag, a lot of action and not a lot of time to sit with the characters and really connect to what they're feeling. By page like 10 of what would be the actual book itself, they were already in love. By page 20, they were professing their love to each other. That being said, I did not rate this on Goodreads because I never want someone to look at a queer story written by a queer author and think like, I'm not going to pick this up. If they're interested because of like a rating that I've given it, it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't my story. It's very short, and like Tommy and Amos are cute. Now I'm gonna start Unsteady. I started it, I got through the first chapter, and I'm already very into the writing, and I can see why people cry at this. So at this 20% mark of Unsteady, there's already so much to love here with this. Going into this, I knew that this is a quite beloved hockey romance. I knew that it was emotional, there's a lot going on, and that people have like cried. And so I went in kind of like, I'll be honest with that kind of review, low expectations, and it's meeting those expectations plus some. So this is a college sports romance, hockey and figure skating. The hero, Reese, is a hockey player. The heroine, Sadie, is the figure skater. I believe they go to the same college. He's like a star hockey player. At the beginning of the novel, or before the events of the novel start, he was involved in a really traumatic accident during a hockey game that nearly resulted in his death. So now he has been struggling with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, some depression, and just mentally he's not doing super well. And then Sadie is a figure skater. She's at the college on a scholarship. She has 2 younger brothers, an absentee mom, and an alcoholic father. So she is largely responsible for the financial and emotional and physical well-being of her 2 younger brothers. She is on probation at school because the year prior was just a really bad year for her. She was struggling with her grades and she was about to fail out. So she's kind of on thin ice, but she's also struggling to financially support her brothers while going to school, having a job, all that kind of stuff. They originally meet because there is like a volunteer learn how to skate program that Sadie's 2 brothers are attending or whatever, and Reese volunteers for it. Sadie shows up late one afternoon to pick up her brothers, and they have a little bit of a tiff, and then the next morning Sadie goes in the early morning to their school rink to skate, and Reese is there having a complete breakdown on the ice. He's having a panic attack. He is completely freaked out by being on the ice again, and she's able to calm him down. Kind of have this pact going where, or this like deal going where they will both skate on the ice together, and this sparks up a friendship between the two. And this first 20% has really just been Reese being an obsessed little anxious lover boy, and Sadie dealing with a ton of shit and being a little bit standoffish to Reese. Feeling the effects of depression in a way that he has never experienced before, and one of his symptoms is a feeling of emptiness and a lack of joy, on top of the very traumatic flashbacks and emotional flashbacks and things that he's having. He feels a sense of comfort, a sense of joy with Sadie. During these like co-mingled skating events, that's like the only time in his life that he feels any sort of connection and joy. And Sadie also feels connected to him, but she's much more resistant to it. She's someone that prioritizes being single and more is like in the hookup culture sort of mentality, and Reese is much more of a monogamy sort of guy. At this 20% mark, they are about to hook up, or I'm assuming it might, you know, get broken up, but Reese is like taking the crumbs that Sadie is feeding him and just willing to give whatever relationship she is willing to give him. It's mostly just been them helping each other through things in these early morning hours on the ice, of Sadie taking out her aggression and him just being there, or Reese struggling to get on the ice and her being there, working him through panic attacks and things through music and through connection. And there's just so much to love in these early chapters. I did struggle a little bit in the very beginning because it feels like you're plopped in the middle of these character stories with little to no background. So things are definitely slowly unraveling and we're getting more info, especially on Sadie, but in the first couple chapters it was definitely focused on Reese, and Sadie's story was a little bit like slower to unravel, so it was a little more confusing on her end how she got where she was and why she was how she was, all that kind of stuff. But we're slowly getting that, and I can see this being a 5-star. It's really good. It's very, very heavy, but I already feel that emotional connection between our characters that I love to see in a romance. That being said, I'm only 20% of the way through. Thankfully, this is not an overly long romance, as contemporary romance authors seemed to like to do recently. They like to have these 500, 600, 700 page contemporary romances, which I think is absolutely outrageous. This book is not overly long, so I'm excited about the prospect of this book being a new 5-star favorite. So we'll see. We'll see, but I'm gonna spend the rest of the day reading and gaming and chilling, so I'm hoping to make a decent chunk through this one, and we'll definitely talk about it later. Let's talk a little bit about the different books that I am in the middle of, because I started a ton, even though I probably shouldn't have. First of all, Unsteady. I am about 60% of the way through it. Found myself completely unable to stop reading this. Like, I knew that I needed to stop so that I could give you guys a 15% update, but I could not. Since we last talked, they have pretty much entered into sexual relationship, kind of like a hooking up situation. Reese has basically told her that he'll take whatever she gives him, and even though he wants to be in a relationship with her and admits that he's in love with her while he's drunk, she is very resistant to being in a relationship. So they've been hooking up, and at this 60% mark there was a pretty emotional scene between the two of them. And this author's writing, I don't know, it just is so good. I'm just like sucked in by the chemistry between these two characters, the way that mental health is explored but not like in an overdone way. The build of their relationship, I think, is very, very, very solid. I'm just so ready for them to be together. I'm so ready for them both to get therapy, but I'm just really loving the story, and I'm so excited to finish it and go into the second one, because the second one is available on Kindle Unlimited, so I did pick it up. I also am about 30% of the way through Crash Test. This is one that I have been interested in for a while. I picked it up even though it wasn't on Kindle Unlimited, and I'd heard mixed things, but I decided that I wanted to give it a shot, so I picked it up. This started incredibly strong. So we open the story in the first chapter with Travis. Starts off with him having just competed very well in a Formula 1 race. He gets approached by a reporter who is asking some questions when he overhears people talking about a really tragic accident that had happened in an F2 race involving a guy named Jacob that he has been dating for over a year in secret. He finds out that Jacob is in critical condition, and he kind of goes into a tailspin about, well, people don't know. If I just show up at the hospital, like, we're not even friends out in public, people are going to question why I'm there. His family doesn't know about me. And so ultimately, he decides to go and visit him. He rushes to the hospital, and Jacob's entire family is there. His brother and his 2 parents, and they kind of look at him like, who are you? Are you a reporter? Are you trying to just, like, figure out what's going on? They don't really trust him. I don't know if it was like a cardiac arrest situation, but he's in a coma. He's on a ventilator. His heart starts acting erratic, so they get the doctor, and they obviously push Jacob out because it's only for family. And right off the bat, there's this very heartbreaking response that Travis has. He says, they only want family inside. I'm the one who woke up next to him this morning. I'm the one who made him his coffee. I'm the one who wished him luck on his race. The one who kissed him and tried to work up the nerve to tell him I love him before chickening out for the 100th time. But I'm not family. And as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, this is like, I teared up a little bit. I was like, this is gonna break my heart. Keep reading, whatever, that's the first couple chapters. We start getting flashbacks to when Travis and Jacob met for the first time. They had met a year prior at a Grand Prix. Travis had just entered into F1 racing. He'd only been racing for a couple of years, and they were, you know, competing at this Grand Prix. The Grand Prix ends up getting rained out, and while they're waiting to be released by their different sports agency teams or whatever, they end up kind of forced by a reporter to do an interview together. Travis is still in F2, or Travis is in F1, Jacob is in F2. The reporter does like a 20 question situation, and it's immediately obvious that they are not anything alike. In their likes and dislikes are vastly different. One says, I like the beach. One says, I like the mountains. And they have just very differing opinions on everything. Their personalities are completely different. Travis is very shy and closed off, and Jacob is very gregarious and bubbly and flirty and fun. But they kind of spark up a flirtation situation together. After the interview, they are having a little banter back and forth, and I will admit that this first introduction to Jacob was not a very good one. Travis is written in a autism coded way in certain regards, and during this initial scene, Jacob kept calling him weird, kept calling him a robot, which is a common insult for autistic people, especially autistic men, and making fun of his music taste, making fun of the fact that his phone has the default wallpaper, which I take offense to because, like, my wallpaper is literally default wallpaper, and so it's just like making fun of him the whole time in a way that's very stereotypical and very like stigmatized, which I didn't like. But I wanted to continue to give it a chance, whatever. It was like, it's kind of like whatever, you know? And then between those flashbacks of them meeting each other, hooking up, all that kind of stuff, which it's all behind closed doors. We don't really see any actual sex or anything. But between those chapters, we have Jacob in the hospital, Travis having to go back to work, going back to being a racer, and hiding the fact that the love of his life, or the person that he's in love with, is in the hospital in critical condition, and he can't see him. He goes to see him a couple times, and he gets pushed away by nurses or by his family, and so he's kind of being isolated away from this person that he loves that's in critical condition, and we're having to read him try to like function and act as if everything is fine while freaking out about what is going to happen with Jacob. And at this 30% mark, I have got a flashback chapter of them kind of the first time being really alone. They both are on vacation together at Jacob's family's like cabin in the mountains or something. They spend like a week or so together. The first couple of chapters were so like anxiety inducing and so heavy that I was like, this is written super well. I'm liking where this is going. But as the story has gone on, And like I said, I'm only 30% of the way through. A lot of issues have started to come up for me, have started to pop up. Because in the current day with Travis, Jacob is in the hospital. And so Travis is freaking out and all that. We're not really getting a lot of relationship development. So I would hope that in the past chapters, because the past chapters are flashbacks to their relationship starting, we would be getting like in real time scenes of them having conversations and having romantic moments together. But instead we're getting like, we spent the week together and it was super fun and we chatted and we did this and this and this, rather than being in the present moment with them, which I don't like. Like, this is a flashback scene. Why are we flashing back and then talking as if it's in the past? If that makes sense. Like, I want them to show me their relationship, not just tell me that they're in love. And I have heard really mixed things about this, really bad things about this, and so I don't know how the rest of the story is gonna go. I do feel obligated to finish it because I did purchase it and I've already DNF'd a book for this video, but we'll see. Like, compared to Unsteady, I don't know, it's just not there. Like, I really thought that Crash Test would be, like, I thought it would knock it out of the park. I thought I would love it based on how the beginning was, but I'm not impressed so far. That being said, I am so eager to get back into Unsteady, so we're probably going to talk when I'm done with that. Okay, let's do a little bit of a reading update. I finished Unsteady, and for all of the reasons that I spoke about in previous clips at length, I settled on a 5-star for this one. I had minor complaints with some of the ways that the plot lines wrapped up, and I would have liked to have seen a smidge more of the turning point for the heroine, in which she decided that she was going to go all in with Reese. But overall, I think it's a great story. I think it does exactly what Binding 13 is trying to do, just infinitely better. In comparison, unfortunately, I also DNF'd Crash Test. This continued to do the thing of telling instead of showing, and I continued to read it. I got about 15% further through it than the last time I updated you, and I just cared about the characters less and less. I cared less about them ultimately ending up together. I didn't care for their relationship at all. And I knew that if I pushed myself and forced myself to finish it, it would probably be like a 2-star. And there's just really no point in me doing that. So I DNF'd that. I am 30% of the way through The Shots You Take. I have read one other novel by Rachel Reed. I've read Heated Rivalry. I liked it. I thought it was good. I gave it a 4-star. This is quite similar to that, except what I feel like would be in the future with slightly different character motivations. So this follows Adam and Riley. At the beginning of the novel, Riley's father has just passed away, and in the first chapter, we are at his father's funeral, and Adam shows up. We find out that they were roommates and best friends many years ago. They were on the same hockey team, and they had a bit of a sexual relationship. But Riley fell for Adam, and when he tried to confess his feelings to Adam, Adam basically said, like, I'm not gay. He just kept saying, I'm not gay. That's not what this relationship is, and was very dismissive of Riley. So they ended up breaking things off, and it's 12 years in the future. Adam has come to town to repair things with Riley and be there for him after his father's death. He was very close with his father. They ran a sporting goods store together. And so Adam just wants to be a source of support for him. And we're also getting flashbacks to their relationship in the past. Adam is in a very different place. He's retired. He is considered like a Hall of Famer, but he's now divorced from his wife, who he met in the relationship with Riley, and he has kids, and so they're just both in very different places. Riley had to quit hockey because of the fallout of the relationship with Adam, depression, anxiety, and some other things that he was dealing with, some alcoholism. So he ends up retiring early and moving back to his hometown to be with his family because he just kind of went down a really dark road. And they helped him come back from that, and he's been working in his father's store ever since. And now that his father has passed, he's inheriting it. And it's really emotional. It's really heavy. There's a lot of grief and pain going on, not only in the present, but in the past as well. My biggest complaint about Heated Rivalry is the writing is very, very sparse. Now, I understand to a certain extent for one of the heroes in that. Oddly, I think his name is also Adam. One of the characters in that I understand because he's intentionally written as like an autistic character or having autistic characteristics. But for Ilya's standpoint, I just didn't really get the writing style. I don't really connect with that really sparse writing style. This is like not at all similar to what's going on here. The main character in this, Riley, has very similar characteristics as the main character that I can't remember the name of that I think is Adam in the other one, in Heated Rivalry, but this feels much more mature. It feels much more emotional. The Heated Rivalry definitely deals with really heavy topics and a lot of character problems, like a lot of mental health problems, but like I said, that writing is so sparse that in this one, I'm connecting a lot better. I'm relating to them a lot better. I can feel the grief and the heaviness, and I'm really liking the way the story is being told. Crash Test, I didn't have a problem with the way that like the second chance is being done because I didn't really feel like it was a second chance. And so a lot of readers had issues with the flashbacks that were being establishing flashbacks for their relationship, with the idea of a lot of character development and relationship development being done in the past, because I didn't look at that one as a second chance. This one, in my opinion, is a pure second chance romance. And so I need Rachel Reed to develop their past relationship and also their present relationship and why they should make it work now. I will say, I am not massively drawn to Adam. As someone who has kids, he has multiple kids, he admits that he was not in his children's life when he was younger, and he doesn't really seem to have a big drive to be in his children's life, to have anything to do with them. He says that he loves them, but he barely thinks about them, he barely talks about them, and there doesn't seem to be an attempt to like be a better father, which is frustrating for me and will make me not like a character. But I'm only 30% in. That might be part of his character growth. He is on a bit of an identity thing. He just recently accepted that he was gay and came out to, the loved ones in his life, but he's not fully out. And so there is a lot of identity and growth there for Adam, but we'll see. So I am liking the setup for the story. I like the idea of him coming and kind of helping Riley through the grief and the pain without sort of like anything on his end, because he really doesn't think that Riley is going to accept him back into his life after the pain he caused him. So I'm liking it so far. I liked Heated Rivalry. I had my complaints, but I don't know if I'm going to like this one more. We'll find out. I'll probably come back when I'm at 50% mark if I have something monumental to say. If not, I'm going to let you know when I'm done. I'm listening to the audiobook of it. So, all right, let's talk about it, because last night I finished The Shots You Take. I enjoyed this quite a bit, but I definitely had my problems with it. I ended up rating it a 4-star, but it's more of like a high 3-star. Ultimately, at the end, in the present, really, really loved Riley and Adam's relationship. The present timeline is incredibly sweet. It's incredibly sweet to see Adam taking care of Riley in his grief. It's sweet to see them falling in love again and rediscovering each other 12 years later. And it's just overall a very sweet, relatively low angst portion of the story. My problem lies in the past. And I think a lot of other readers also had issues with the past, specifically Adam. I felt like Adam did not do enough to redeem the things that he had done in the past. And we also didn't get enough past chapters to make what he did more understandable. So, like I said in my previous update, he basically laughed at Riley's face when Riley admits to Adam that he's in love with him. and he continually strings Riley along. He has sex with him while he's married to someone else. And while he's very sweet and attentive in the present, I don't feel like there was enough fleshing out in the past of their past relationship, and there also wasn't enough, in my opinion, groveling in the present. They have a bit of back and forth tension in the beginning, of Riley not really trusting Adam, and through some events he learns to trust present day Adam, but there isn't enough atonement for what he did in the past. And obviously I understand that he was struggling a lot with his own identity and he had things going on, but I don't think that that excuses the things that he did to Riley. And I can certainly understand people who don't feel like he gets redeemed in the end. Ultimately, I liked their present day relationship. There were just some things that I wish we had spent a little bit more time on. Maybe 20 more pages would have helped. You know, a couple of more chapters in the past would have helped to really flesh it out. And then my other main issue is definitely Adam's relationship with his kids. I mentioned again in the past clip that he talks about being a father, but he's not very present for his kids. And during the entire novel, we only see one scene with his children, and I don't like the way that he handled the situation. I don't like the way that the situation was written. It's really only seemed to be in the book for the purposes of getting them to eventually move in together at the end, like as an HEA. I don't necessarily know that the story needed children, which is always my biggest complaint when authors write children in, because if you're writing a romance and you want to focus on the romance, I understand that, but children are such a pain point in some ways for some people, and the way that characters raise their children is something that people tend to focus on. And so if you're not going to put the energy and the space into that character's development as a parent, or showing that character as a parent, I think it just ends up being a detriment to that character, and that's how I felt in this story. I didn't find him to be a good parent. I didn't find him to care about his kids in the way that I felt like he should. And to me, that's a major red flag. So, like I said, overall, I ended up enjoying the story. I think in the present, they're a very sweet couple, but I did have my issues with the story. That being said, that's it for what the sports romance is that I am going to be reading for this video. In fact, I am craving some fantasy romances. I'm very, very tired of contemporary, so I'm excited to dive into Arcana Academy and Shield of Sparrows, which is what I'm reading right now. But I would love to talk down below your thoughts on anything that I read in this video. I would love to talk about Heated Rivalry or any of Rachel Reed's other books. I haven't watched the TV show, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you're looking for more content like this from me. I post media and book related content. I share my takes and we just talk a lot. So please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.